this series that I'm doing
Hmm.
is, yeah, as you know, I talk a lot about mindset and sports psychology, and you
Yeah.
work, you're so like deep into golf. You played yourself and you teach, you're in sports management. So I'm curious about kind of your story and what led you to where you are now and what you're doing.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thanks for thinking of me. And I
Yeah.
know you've had some great minds and athletes, around you and coming onto the podcast. So I appreciate you reaching out to me. Yeah, just to give you kind of a background of me. I played. I grew up in California, in Southern California. Played junior golf growing up, and just kind of quickly realized that that was what I was going to do for a living. And by quickly, I mean like 11, 12 years old.
Wow.
I don't know how to say this, but I was just better. Um, Won a lot of tournaments, and I really liked it. And the part that I liked, so when people say they like something, I like the bad stuff, not just the good stuff. The grind, the practice, the early mornings. Like I remember my dad taking me out to the course at like 5:30 a.m. before school, and I was what, in fourth, fifth grade, and
Yeah.
I was okay with that every day, and then hitting balls at a night range. And I think most of us, like Korean Americans, know about lit driving ranges that are lit up
Yeah.
at night, and that was something that I really really enjoyed. Um, and so quickly won a lot of junior tournaments in the Southern California section. Um, Played the AJGA, was first team All American, and which many junior players are. It's
Yeah.
nothing out of the ordinary. But yeah, so had a nice junior career. I actually played one of my first PGA Tour events when I was 16 years old
That's right.
in 1996 or something like that. It was back then called the Nissan
Nissan.
LA Open.
Yeah. Weren't you
Yeah, so
like
I
the
have a
youngest
really
to
I was
play?
probably one of the youngest.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But so Riviera has kind of a sentimental place in my heart. Went to Arizona State and just stayed out here ever since.
Hmm.
But never was there a moment where I was wondering what I was going to do when I grew up. So sometimes that's unrelatable. And as a parent, I try to give those options to my children.
Mhm.
But I knew at like a really young age, this was what I was going to do. So had I would say just an okay professional career. I got to play on the PGA Tour for a couple of years. I played on the Corn Ferry, which was, I played that for so long. It changed names 4 times. It was the Buy.com, then the Nationwide, then the Web.com, then Corn Ferry. When you're going through 4 name changes on a secondary tour, it's probably you're hanging on for too long. But regardless, had a long career, played in Asia, so I played a lot everywhere, and there was just a moment in time, and I know exactly which moment it was. It was October of 2018. I went to TPC here. It was about 100 degrees, and 100 degrees in Arizona is nothing.
No, yeah.
So I came home about 30 minutes later, and my wife's like, "Oh, what are you doing?" And I was like, "It's too hot. It's way too hot." So the next day, I come home about 30 minutes later, and she knew I was done, and I knew
Yeah.
I was done. And I didn't like the bad anymore. I only liked the good. And so that's when I transitioned into coaching. And to be honest with you, Matt, coaching for a lot of ex players is not something that we wanted to do, but it's the next thing, right? It's the next thing, and it was the next thing for me at that time. And my level of happiness, my level of fulfillment is so much greater now than when I was playing. And so I'm very thankful, very blessed to be in the position I am today.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's kind of how I got here.
Yeah, I mean, but you're not only coaching though, are you, Jen? You're doing more.
So yeah, so I've kind of built relationships with a lot of the Korean American and Korean players. I've always been kind of helping them with just kind of navigating through their life in the United States, and always helping them as much as I could with flights and such. And just the opportunity came from Sportsbox sports agency, and they wanted to start an Asian division and wanted me to kind of lead that team. And it just, a friend of mine helped kind of put that together. And so for about 3 years now, I've been in the sports agency world as well as coaching, as well as being involved with some, Korean, winter training programs, as they call it Jeonjulyeon in Korea, but it's a winter training program. And so kind of got my hands in a few different places.
Yeah. So, what was really interesting, do you mind if I pull on your story a little bit about the grind? Like
Sure.
you said, you really love the bad stuff as well as the good stuff when you're around 11 years old. And I'm curious, what was it about the grit, like the waking up early mornings, the practicing late at nights? What was that? What was so enjoyable about that? And I'm curious, do you pull that into other areas of learning something new now in your life?
Mhm. So kind of going back to the grind and enjoying that. I think, and I'm going to go off topic here for a second.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, when we talk about Asian parenting, right? We talk about that Asian parenting in a very negative connotation, right? A lot of people, when you say, "Oh, Asian parenting," they think of kind of parents' expectations and discipline and almost punishment, right? And and I think there is some of that too. But how I got to where I am, my it's a lot of my upbringing. I saw it from my parents. My dad worked his butt off. We lived a very affluent life, but he did that by himself. He built a business, and I saw his hard work.
Yeah.
And a lot of that I have to give him credit for. A lot of parenting nowadays talks about, hey, do whatever makes you happy, right? But does that mean don't do anything that doesn't make you happy? Does that mean we should quit everything when it doesn't make us happy? And so when I saw my dad going through his struggles with his business and still working hard, and Matt, I'll be completely transparent. It's not like I had the best of relationship, and as a lot of Korean
For sure.
sons with their parent, especially with their dads, because of expectations and whatnot. And I really never have told him this, but I really have him to thank for who I am and that grit. I think we learn from what we see, not what we were told.
Yeah.
And so, what was it about that? Well, I think it was just the never-ending challenge. Maybe a little bit inherited, maybe a little bit learned, probably a little bit of both. But it was, I still kind of teach to my students. I go, I'm probably the least talented person of all the people that I teach. But I said, I can guarantee you that I outworked you guys, and that's made me who I am, not like what I've achieved. I said who I am, and it's built a lot of confidence in me. I'm a pretty confident person, but it really, you gain confidence from doing things that are challenging, and and working, working hard and doing challenging things and taking the extra steps. And yeah, I think that grit was kind of inherited and learned from my
Yeah.
dad.
Yeah, definitely modeled. Do you think that skill of grit and that hard work and doing challenging things and not so fun stuff,
Mhm.
is that teachable?
Definitely it's teachable.
Mhm.
But I think it's more teachable to the people that understand um, that there's no plan B. I you know,
I love that.
I also, one of the things that I kind of teach to my students is there's this movie, and you're gonna be like, what? You're gonna draw something off of this Batman movie?
Yeah.
But there's a movie called The Dark Knight or Dark Knight Rises, or I don't know. It's one of the Batman series movies, and there's a part in where the Batman gets captured, and he's in this well, this water well, and everyone, they tie a rope and try to climb out of the well.
Yeah.
And basically, if you fall, you're going to get severely injured or possibly die. And Batman asks, "Hey, has anybody escaped out of here?" And they say, "Yeah, one person had escaped." And he says, "How did they do it?" They said they didn't have a rope. So I think that's a
Wow.
cool like metaphor that you're either all in or you're not.
Yeah.
Uh, so when you have that mindset of, well, I don't have a plan B, and truly think that, right? Not kind of half in, oh, my parents will bail me out, or
Yeah.
I'll go to grad school, or I'll go to law school. Like, truly be immersed into, hey, I am all in on this. There is no backup plan. My family, I'm gonna starve if I don't do this.
Right.
I think, I think you can teach somebody that grit and hunger, but at the same time, they have to have the character, and they have to have that kind of hunger. They need to have that to be able to feel, feel that they need to work hard to be able to achieve those things.
Yeah. I saw this special on like King, for example, King Richard, played by Will Smith, and then
Hmm.
HBO Max had a special on Serena, and
Hmm.
you see hunger where you're born and raised in the Comptons, and
Hmm.
people are getting shot, and
Hmm.
that's your reality, and the only way out is sports, right? And the only
Hmm.
escape that you have is making it. And I think, you know i I work with a lot of players that have both, and even people with a lot of privilege. If
Right.
you love something so much, I truly believe you can develop that grit and that hunger. Like you just
Yes.
you want it so badly. So it's not only for those who don't have anything. Like I feel like it's a character
Hmm.
that can be developed. It's a muscle where Simon Sinek is a leadership guy. He wrote a book, Start with
Yes.
Why,
Yeah.
and you've
Hmm.
heard of it. And he always
Yes.
says you got to have your why. I mean that
Correct.
really leads you to the
Yeah.
what and the how. So
Yes.
so I think you're absolutely right. I do think it's teachable, and it's. But I love that Batman analogy. I mean, that gave me chills because I remember that scene where
Yeah.
you don't have a rope. You have to make
Right.
it. So, over the years, as you were kind of coaching and even playing yourself, what's some of the common challenges that you've seen in your students or with other players as they develop to be
Hmm.
the best?
Right. I'm gonna have one like real challenge
Yeah.
is, and I'm sure you've had dealt with some of your players and some of your close friends, and maybe even yourself. And because I've gone through this, is one of the most real challenges is finance. I don't think a lot of people talk about finance when they talk about trying to make it, right?
Yeah.
Everyone talks about, oh, not having not having the resource, or this or that, or I'm not good enough, or I didn't have the opportunity. A lot of it is finance. Most of us, most of the guys and gals that have to move on, they just run out of money.
Yeah.
So that's a really big challenge, because that dictates what you can and can't do. So I think one of the biggest challenges that I see even in my students is sometimes they just can't come to me as often as I would like them to, or often as they want to.
Yeah.
One, they can't play certain tournaments. They can't go see a Matt Park or somebody of your caliber, and those are real issues.
Yeah.
They can't go to, and when you do, even when you do, when you feel like this is my last dime, you start making decisions based on what you have in your bank account, not
Right.
based on what is probability of what it should be done. I kind of equate to gambling.
Yeah.
If you go play poker with $100 and or blackjack with $100, and that's your last $100, you're probably going to be a little timid. Where if you play with $100, but now you have $10,000 of bankroll, you might make you might start splitting cards or doing some more aggressive moves. And and again, now I'm kind of going off on a tangent here, but
Makes sense.
yeah, I think confidence is very hard to have when you feel like you're on your last dime.
Yeah.
You have the nickel and dime it, and
Yeah.
it's kind of part of entrepreneurship. And I'd like to think some of the early mini tour guys are entrepreneurs,
Sure.
who are spending their last dime to be able to make it big.
Yeah.
And so that is one of the real challenges that not a lot of people talk about.
Yeah. Let's talk about it, because it is a real challenge. I have
Mhm,
students that are struggling with that right
mhm,
now, and
mhm,
I know what it feels like as well. And it's
mhm.
like it really impacts the way we behave and our actions, exactly like you said. And that poker analogy was brilliant.
Mhm.
What would you advise yourself if you were going through that, or maybe a player, when there is those real challenges of
Mhm.
finances? Like how do you coach through that? What do you have them focus on, or what are some of the real talks that you might have?
Yeah, that's a good question, Matt, and that's I wish I had I wish I had the right answer for this, but I think what's important is, I'm going to steal this off of another podcast, which I heard was you have to believe that you have to have this almost a delusional mindset of what I'm putting into today is going to pay off someday.
I love
And
that.
not so much about if I do this if I do this, then I'm going to get that. But as you and I, as we've kind of looked back at our life, and some of the players that have kind of looked back in their careers, I think it's not so much about what we have achieved, but who we've become.
Mm,
And I don't think there's a tangible like money value to that, but but as you're going through the financial struggles, like you don't think about what it's becoming, who you're becoming in that time,
yeah.
but it made me who I am today. So what do I advise younger people to do? Like, if they're running out of money, I mean, that's a real issue. So they need to be able to have good relationships with people,
Right.
build relationships, build opportunities, show that you're able to outwork people. People want to help others that are willing to put in the work.
Yes.
People want to help others that and a lot of young people and a lot of people say something like, oh, what's 20,000 to so and so, or well, I'll tell you this: wealthy people didn't get wealthy by wasting money on people who
Right.
aren't willing to, put in the time and the effort, right?
Hmm.
So, and I think opportunity comes to people who work really hard.
Right.
So it's not just about, well, if I work hard, then I'm going to get this, or if I work hard now, then I'm going to go do this at the next tournament. No, if you work hard, it's you are becoming who you are becoming. You don't even realize the effects of what it's doing to you,
Yeah.
and who might be watching, and when that opportunity might come. And I think especially in golf, because golf is such a what have you done for me right now? Well, not even lately. So what have you done today? Sport, right? You're making money or you're not making money each time you play good and bad.
Right.
So so with golf, it's not just about, well, if I practice and I'm going to do good in the next tournament, or I'm going to get this result. It's about being able to create those opportunities. So to the young people that are financially struggling, one, I think it's really important, people skills and knowing how to handle relationships. Really, as I look back in life, that's almost everything.
Right.
Relationships are everything.
Right.
When I was younger, and if I heard this, I'd be like, yeah, whatever. Like, just give me some money, let me go play, right?
Yeah.
But relationships are everything. And I think the biggest takeaway is, you have to, within your resource, um, just outwork everybody and do your best, so that you create that opportunity.
Love
And
it.
and I think people need to understand what doing your best means. It's not just countless hours of unintentional practice. It's about um, it's about being as prepared as you can possibly be for each and every single day, each and every single moment.
Mm.
Creating good habits, which is probably my number one thing that I talk about, is creating good habits.
Mm.
We're just a sum of our daily habits.
Mm-hmm.
So you do those things, and I think opportunity will come. Now, does that solve the real life, hey, I got to pay my $1,000 rent? No, it doesn't. And honestly, to that, Matt, I don't have an answer. I really don't. I
I
don't
don't
know.
think
If you
there is
do,
an
let me
answer.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to piggyback off of what you said, because I don't think there is an answer tangibly that would say, take this advice and it'll solve your financial problems. It doesn't work that way.
Right.
I mean, we wish, right? But what
Mhm.
happens to me, I'm just going to speak for myself, when I'm financially struggling, or there is a pending kind of like burden, like financial
Mhm.
troubles. I get into what we call a scarcity mindset, and scarcity mindset creates more tunnel vision. So we get very narrow visioned,
Mhm.
where um, when we are operating in more of an abundance mindset, like
Mhm. Mhm.
if we're thinking a little bit more creatively and innovatively, our mindset is complete, our vision is completely more open. It's more broad, rather
Mhm.
than just narrow. So
Mhm.
we get less creative, we get less innovative, less aggressive, less kind of tapped in our flow. So
Mhm.
one of the things that I tend to do, exactly what you said, is you get grateful with what you have right now. I know that
Mhm.
that bank account is going down, and you're constantly worried about what you don't have. And when we
Mhm.
fixate on that, then all of a sudden we get narrower and narrower, tighter and tighter,
Right.
and
Yeah.
less free. But the opposite of scarcity mindset is more that abundance thinking, the abundance mindset. So what I often try to do is I just start with three things in my life right now that I really appreciate, that money can't buy.
Mhm.
Where
Mhm.
and then I start to kind of see my progression. Okay, how am I growing right now? Like, what are some things I'm
Mhm.
really proud of myself, regardless of what's about to happen? Here are the things that I'm really really proud of. Like, you know what?
Right.
I'm hanging in there and I'm supporting my family, even though we're
Mhm.
barely making ends meet. I'm
Mhm.
still able to pay my bills. Now, I
Right.
don't know how long this is going to be, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to stay right here. I'm able
Right.
to, do X, Y, and Z. And I try to fill myself up with gratitude. And that is one of the things that I tend to focus on a lot when I get
Mm-hmm.
scared, when I get fearful, when I get worried. So, but you're right. There's no formula for this. It's just,
Well, and I mean, that's such a great advice. And, you know, that's something that I want to practice into my life as well. More of that. I mean, I think no one, I don't know how to say this with us using like a triple negative, but nobody, there's no one that doesn't like a person that is very thankful, right? I
right,
mean,
right,
we all like the people that are very thankful and appreciative, and
right.
and you're right, that takes our focus off of, instead of not focusing on something, just focusing on what we do have, and saying, again, kind of piggybacking off of that question of what do you tell somebody that's going through that. It's, I heard this the other day too. Sometimes our goal, like, we can't see it in darkness.
Mm-hmm.
When it's completely dark, we can't see anything,
Mm-hmm.
but you can see your foot. So you put the one foot in front of the other and you just get moving, right? And you're grateful that you can, at least you have legs that you can move, that you can put one foot in front of the other. And what I realized through my transition, and I'm going to kind of segue into kind of my transition. Sorry to kind of change the topic here a little bit, but I was going through a transition in my life where, going from playing golf to coaching.
Yeah.
My whole life, like I said earlier, my whole life I was almost bred to be a professional golfer who played golf.
Mm-hmm.
So for about 6 months, I was like kind of almost clinically depressed, where I didn't know who I was. I lost my identity. I remember sitting right here, as I'm having this conversation with you right here, just completely broke down, just completely lost it. I had promised certain things to my spouse and my kids that I didn't provide, and I just didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
And the reason that I'm talking about this is I just kind of picked myself up and I said, put one foot in front of the other and get moving. Just start moving. Like, nothing is going to get done on this table, on the seat. Nothing's going to get done. So I just started, honestly, I started moving, and that's how I created momentum. I didn't think about the financials. I just said, you know what, get moving. And there are some things that, as I look back, I made flyers. I went to LA fitness places. I said, I'm going to do a free golf clinic. I went to car dealerships, started handing out flyers saying, if somebody test drives a car, I'll give them a free lesson. Like, I went from door to door, selling golf lessons, and this was a PGA Tour, ex PGA Tour player. So I kind of let my ego down. It was a very kind of in a way, kind of embarrassing time in my life, but at the same time, I couldn't be more proud of what I did, and I wish that one day my kids will listen to this and know what I'm willing to do. I want them to kind of start from the bottom up. And I'm not saying I went and, I dug a hole in the ground for a living, but hey, look, sometimes you just got to pick yourself up, know that, hey, I'm going to go back to the bottom, and I will start from the bottom and work my way up. And again, like I said, I just got moving. I just put one foot in front of the other and just created momentum.
That's so inspiring. Jen, you didn't have a rope. I mean,
That's right.
You were in that situation and you had no rope,
right.
and you did whatever it took. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And
I don't know. I'd like to, one day talk a little bit more about that with you, maybe personally, because sometimes I don't know what it is, we tend to perform at our best when we don't have the rope, when our back's against the wall, when the pressure is at its highest. I feel like there's a good balance between pressure and performance.
Yeah.
And so I'd like to learn that more from you when
Yeah. I mean, we
on
don't have
another
to
time.
unpack that now, but one thing is, you were saying something earlier that you are a combination of the habits that we cultivate and train in our lives. And I feel like there was a reason that you love the hard stuff and the dirty stuff and
Mhm,
not so fun stuff and the grit.
mhm,
There's parts of those habits that you trained early on that subconsciously they come out when there is no rope. Like that's the
mhm,
hard stuff. And I think your body, your mind, your spirit gets familiar in those places of saying, I don't care about ego, I don't care about pride. I'm going to do whatever it takes. And I think that is just a development of a mindset that you've cultivated and your parents have kind of instilled in you at a very young age.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm very thankful that I think as Asian kids, growing up with Asian parents, I think that's something that, like I said, I think a lot of people talk negatively about Asian parenting, and there are certain things that can be better. There's no parenting that's perfect, right?
Mhm.
Um, it can be better, but there are so many just beautiful traits that
Mhm.
we learn from the Asian culture: the discipline, the grit, hard work, and things like that. And that's what as we talked about, that's what kind of made me who I am, the
Yeah.
habits.
Yeah.
And again, these are things that I speak to my students about, but not just speak to them. I want to show them. I don't want to be that guy that says, hey, do this and do that, and not live that life. So I try to be the hardest worker in the room, and that's completely in your control. I think
Yeah.
wherever you go, you can be the hardest worker in that room, and that's in your control. So whether I am or not, I probably am not, but whether I am or not, that's something that I strive for.
Yeah.
Something that was instilled in me a long time ago, and so and along with that, like the mental aspect and this the mental training, I also kind of recommend my student golfers to do something that's challenging
Yeah.
each and every day,
Love that.
whether that's working out, but whether it's working out or waking up early or something, to feel like, hey, I kind of accomplished something, but not just a simple task as just making your bed, but really doing something that you don't want to do early on in the day. And from what I understand, and you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but what I understand is when you do those kind of things, it creates dopamine, and that's what happiness and confidence comes from.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so that's something that I try to do. I always try to knock something out early in the morning, so that it can create that confidence, that happiness, and also be able to tell my students or tell my children that hey, that's doing this too. I'm not just telling you guys to do it, and
Yeah.
I'm not living it, but I want to be that kind of a leader that will lead by example.
That's so interesting because there's an exercise I do in leadership coaching, and I have all these leaders in the room, and I say, I'm going to do it with you. So Jin, go ahead and give me an okay sign, just like this. Go ahead, just like that. Now put it
Mhm.
on your chin. Okay.
On my
Yeah.
chin.
Yes. So there you go. So what you heard me say chin, and I do this all
Uh-huh.
the time on purpose. I put it on my cheek and I say,
Uh-huh.
put it on my chin. And about 90% of the room, they put it on their cheek. They just follow me because, 55% is communicated nonverbally. Things in life are more caught than they're taught. So I can tell my daughter or my child or whoever I'm coaching to do one thing, but they see me doing something else.
Mhm.
What they learn is what I do more so than what I
Mhm.
say. And things in life, like it's just these mirror neurons and osmosis, and
Mhm. Mhm.
we learn by modeling. And I think for us leaders and the position
Right.
that you're in every single day, it's like do one hard thing each day, and they've seen you do
Mhm.
it. You know, you're getting
Mhm.
up early in the morning, you're doing push-ups, whatever it might be, you're challenging your students,
Mhm.
but you're modeling it in the same way. It's one of the most powerful things in terms of communication and teaching. So I love that. I love that about
Thank
you.
you. Yeah, I definitely would like to have more conversations
Yeah,
moving forward on leadership and, the
absolutely.
neurology and things.
Yeah.
That this is great.
One final question, Jen, and I know you challenge your students in ways where they're focusing on their body, they're focusing on their mind, and they're focusing on their craft, their skill. What's some advice? Like, do one hard thing each day. Like, what's advice that you give them that you keep coming back to? What's something that you you personally share in your
Mhm.
coaching philosophy to your students?
Um, Give me 1 second, since
Yeah.
I actually did. Yeah. So in the beginning of each year, with the students, I'll go over kind of a habitual thing that I want them to change, and I ask them to make it realistic. So, if you're not a morning person, hey, for the month of January, can you promise to wake up at 7 a.m.?
Hmm.
Like, I feel like that's very doable, right? And then I say in February, then I want you to add something. So you're going to wake up at 7, and then you're going to do 5 push-ups. March, you're going to go wake up at 7, do 5 push-ups, and then maybe 5 sit-ups. Like, this is it sounds so silly, right? So but I say, hey, can you be 12 habits better than you were
Wow.
in 2021? Right? And I think that's completely in our control. That's completely in our control to be able to do that. So with that, um, with that, we have an accountability kind of a checklist too, so that we're always keeping each other accountable. So a lot of the times, and I know, and this might be rude at times, but I'll text them really late at night, and then I'll text them really early in the morning, and I want them to know I'm up late, and I'm up until late, and I'm up really early,
Yeah.
and I'm going to outwork you,
Yeah.
and you're way behind me. Like, I want them to know that I will still outwork you. And this podcast is not about, oh man, you work hard or this. No, I
Yeah.
want to challenge them, and I
For
want
sure.
them to be the players, be the children, be the friends that I wish I could have been, right?
Yeah.
And be the coach that I wish that I had, that feels kind of invested in their life and want the best for them. Like, sometimes I think I overdo it, but yeah, I guess my drive is to be the coach to them, like I said, to be the coach to them that I wish I had.
Yeah.
Kind of the last thing that I always kind of go back to is, there's no secret to success.
Right.
I go, there's no secret. Um, Successful people do these few things. I break it down to just 4 things. I said, be really clear about your goals, and then maybe even more importantly than that, have a plan. I said, everyone has goals. Everybody has goals, but nobody really comes up with a plan. So I said, have a plan. So number 1, have a goal. Number 2, have a plan. Number 3, have a team that's going to keep you accountable. Because if you don't, then a lot of the times we tend to just kind of go off track. So
Right.
have a team that's going to keep you accountable. And number 4, and this is again kind of that Asian mentality, is repetition. I think a
Mhm.
lot of people are like, oh, quality over quantity. I go, I get that. I get that. But if you have a goal, if you have a plan, and if you have accountability, then number 4, repetition, is going to be very intentional.
Mm.
So, hey, you're not gonna beat somebody who has who has put in twice the time that you have with the same amount of intention. That's just the way it works. So those are things that I go back to is, hey, let's create good habits, and then be clear about goal, plan, accountability, and repetition.
Oh man, that was like soul food right there. That was kimchi jjigae, that was just like my heart. Having a goal, having a plan, having accountability to those goals and plans, and repetition. I mean, that's Jin Park's golden nuggets, and I could see the title of your book, 12 Habits Better in a Year. It's just, this was incredible. This was a great conversation. And I know a lot of people who are listening right now and who will be listening is just going to be just jotting down a whole bunch of notes and being inspired to work hard and follow a formula, because there really is no magic to success. I mean, you'll see
Right.
Will Smith and Tiger Woods, and even in his Hall of Fame speech, he was saying, you got to work hard, and if you don't, quite frankly, you don't deserve it. You got to earn it, and
Yeah.
it's just the same themes. But what distinguishes those people who actually do it versus those
Mhm.
who think about it is just that
Right.
they do it, right? They get up and they do it, and they're 12 habits
Yeah.
better. So
Right. Yeah, like I said, just put one foot in front of the other, and all the things I talked about today. It's none of them were my ideas. I ripped them off of people like you that I listen to, that I look up to, that inspire me, and I just kind of all put it into one pot, like you said, the kimchi jjigae. All right.
yeah, yeah,
But those are kind of my mottos, and kind of going back to where one of the first question you asked me about, people who are struggling, who are trying to get there. Again, I want them to realize and understand that what you do today may not show up. It may
yeah,
not show up ever in the way you want, but it definitely will make you who you are. And I think that's more important than any kind of results, or any kind of tournament. Whatever number you shoot, at the end of the day, it's really more about who you are, and not what you accomplish.
yeah. Oh, I love that. Jen, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for being on the podcast and just sharing your wisdom and your life's journey with us. So we really appreciate you for sure.
Matt,
Yeah,
yeah, I appreciate you having me on. I would love to have more conversations,
yeah,
get to learn more, and next
absolutely.
time just listen. I feel like I did a little bit too much talking. Sometimes I get going, but
That's great.
love to, yeah,
Yeah,
love
let's
to
do it.
get your insight and pick your brain a little bit. And
Yeah,
again, thank you. Appreciate you having me on. We got to do this again.
yeah, I would love that. Thanks, bud.